Talk Society. This is your host, Trevor, and I'm back with another episode of Straight Talk with Trevor.
Because the ladies from Pour Your Heart Out
no topic
will be over
is
here
off
to
limits.
join the panel.
Plus, but it's a must, you gon' respect this. Plus, your nuts will touch the dust, you try to check this. You ain't
The
insane,
MMA brothers, Bones and Zay, have pre and post shows to the MMA shows. And I am your host, Mr. Straight Talk, the man with the greatest beard on YouTube. Oh, I love throwing that in there. Real quick, I am back on Facebook. I guess they took me out of jail. I was able to connect the channel back. Those of you on Facebook, make sure and hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Man Talk Monday. This is the flagship show of the Straight Talk Society. This is the show that you're going to get all your, drama topics. This is a show that you may get your arguments. This is a show where we're going to talk about not one specific thing, but we dabble around the world of pop culture and the men just banter about it. So that's what this show is. But if this show isn't for you, and I don't know why it wouldn't be, but we also have other shows. The highly acclaimed Tape Fist Politics, Vancat, Mike, MD, and Ricardo do such a fantastic job with that. That's every Tuesday at 6 o'clock. Hey, if that doesn't fancy your boat, then be sure to tune into Wrestling with Reality. Today we have the return of Straight Talk Therapy Sessions with the one and only Dr. Mia. So y'all be sure and tune into that. So tonight we have a fantastic show tonight, the Straight Talk Society. We will not go over that 2.5 hour mark. So Mike, you ain't got no shirt on, right?
I never have clothes on, bro.
But I'm saying you like right on the like crazy.
My bad. I don't like clothes, bro. Anybody that knows me, my
crazy.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following. Turn snack time into fun time. The great mouth-watering flavors in one convenient pack. Great taste and hard to resist. All natural flavored, mouth-watering, new great taste. The new champion of durable flavors. Eat.
Yeah, man. Take my glory when me creating myself and the Jesus.
We gonna mash up this food,
Yeah, about to have me some Dr. What the f... What the heck? What the heck? I had my mouth... What the f...
Do you really believe that garbage?
It's not about believing, it's a matter of fact.
So you believe.
Let us be aware that while they preach the supremacy of the state, declare its omnipotence over individual man, and predict its eventual domination of all peoples on the earth, they are the focus of evil in the modern world. It was C.S. Lewis who in his unforgettable Screwtape letters wrote, "The greatest evil is not done now in those sordid dens of crime that Dickens loved to paint. It is not even done in concentration camps and labor camps. In those, we see its final result. But it is conceived and ordered, moved, seconded, carried, and minuted in clear, carpeted, warmed, and well-lighted offices by quiet men with white collars and cut fingernails and smooth-shaven cheeks who do not need to raise their voice. But because these quiet men do not raise their voices, because they sometimes speak in soothing tones of brotherhood and peace, because like other dictators before them, they're always making their final territorial demand, some would have us accept them at their word and accommodate ourselves to their aggressive impulses. But if history teaches anything, it teaches that simple-minded appeasement or wishful thinking about our adversaries is folly. It means the betrayal of our past, the squandering of our freedom. So I urge you to speak out against those who would place the United States in a position of military and moral inferiority. You know, I've always believed that old Screwtape reserved his best efforts for those of you in the church. So in your discussions of the nuclear freeze proposals, I urge you to beware the temptation of pride, the temptation of blithely declaring yourselves above it all, and label both sides equally at fault, to ignore the facts of history and the aggressive impulses of an evil empire, to simply call the arms race a giant misunderstanding, and thereby remove yourself from the struggle between right and wrong and good and evil.
Oh shit. Here we go again.
You're full of shit.
Alright, thank you.
Now, shush. Shush.
In any country, prison is where society sends its failures. But in this country, society itself is failing.
I'd like to punch him in the face, I'll tell you.
We won the evangelicals. We won with young. We won with old. We won with highly educated. We won with poorly educated. I love the poorly educated.
Niggas, you crazy.
Grab him by the pussy.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Stay shut your mouth. Because you don't know what you're talking about. Yes, I did. Hold it, tough guy. I'm not afraid of physical. Hold it. Don't sit there and tell me I'm not.
There's an old saying in Tennessee, I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says, fool me once, shame on you. You fool me, you can't get fooled again.
They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people. Stand back and stand by with your shut up,
Last thing was Olivia Gondak. It says that I wanted to eat her pussy. Olivia Gondak. I've never said that in my life tour. I would never do that. I'm happily married. I've got more than enough to eat at home. Thank you very much.
You gotta come see us when you come to New York, VP Biden.
I will.
It's a long way until November. We got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
Okay. I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay? It's like incredible. I went to an Ivy League school. I'm very highly educated. I know words. I have the best words. We now have a gun on every table. We're ready to start shooting.
By the way, maybe you could inject some bleach in your arm and that would take care of it. This is the same man.
That was sarcastic.
That was...
Even though they're trying to impeach the son of a bitch. Can you believe that? That's enough. Put down the mic.
Mr. President, are you worried about indictments coming down in this investigation?
Punch him in the face, I'll tell you.
If I may ask
Peter,
one other question, are you worried?
That's enough. That's
Mr.
enough.
President, I was going to ask one of the
I don't want reality. I'm asking the question, which one is better? That's exactly what it is.
Got it on tape. What a stupid son of a bitch.
I don't like words that hide the truth. I don't like words that conceal reality. I don't like euphemisms or euphemistic language. And American English is loaded with euphemisms because Americans have a lot of trouble dealing with reality. Americans have trouble facing the truth. So they invent a kind of a soft language to protect themselves from it. And it gets worse with every generation. For some reason, it just keeps getting worse.
How stupid are these politicians to allow this to happen?
All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Take Fist Politics, another TFP Tuesday. I'm Venkat, and I'm joined with MD. What's up, MD?
Peace, peace, peace. What's going on? What's going on?
All right, all right. Yeah, we have a lot to go over today. The show started later today because my schedule is a little shift around, so it may or may not be around 6:37, but, we'll have to see how it goes. But, just bear with us. But we're happy to have everyone here today. So today we have the topic of the Republicans finally picking a new House Speaker. Before we go into anything, let's just start with the lead story first, and then we'll pick it up from there.
In Washington, D.C., the House of Representatives finally has a new speaker. Republicans voted Wednesday to give Louisiana's Mike Johnson the gavel. As the House returned to business, its first action was overwhelmingly passing a resolution supporting Israel and condemning Hamas.
Speaker-elect Mike Johnson speaking.
We went through a lot to get here, but we are ready to govern, and that will begin right away. You've all heard me talk a lot today, and I'm not going to belabor the point because the sun is bright and it's too warm for the fall. But I'll say this. We're going to dispense with all the usual ceremonies and celebrations that traditionally follow a new speakership because we have no time for either one. The American people's business is too urgent in this moment. The hour is late, the crisis is great. In America, we hear you. And we are reporting again, as I said in there, to our duty stations. That will begin in just a few moments. This entire group is going to go back to the House floor, and we are going to pass our resolution in support of the nation of Israel, our closest ally in the Middle East.
No Republican voted against Mike Johnson as he became the newest Speaker of the House. That was not the case with the other candidates in the 3 weeks since that the House has been without a leader. But now it's time to get to work, and Republicans hope that they have found a candidate to unite their conference.
From the great state of Louisiana and the 56th Speaker of the United States House of Representatives, the Honorable Mike Johnson.
The House was finally able to open again after Louisiana's Mike Johnson became the newest Speaker.
Turmoil and violence have rocked the Middle East and Eastern Europe. We all know it, and tensions continue to build in the Indo-Pacific. The country demands strong leadership of this body, and we must not waver.
Johnson went from a relative unknown to third in line for the presidency. The evangelical Christian is a strong Donald Trump supporter and previously questioned the results of the 2020 election. Democrats immediately targeted Johnson's views.
Joe Biden won the 2020 presidential election. He's doing a great job under difficult circumstances, and no amount of election denialism will ever change that reality. Not now, not ever.
But the newest Speaker of the House vowed to work across the aisle.
I do look forward to working with you on behalf of the American people. I know we see things from very different points of view, But I know that in your heart you love and care about this country and you want to do what's right. And so we're going to find common ground there.
House members have plenty of work to get to after a 3-week hiatus. Virginia Republican Bob Good told CBN he believes Johnson's speakership is good for an Israeli aid package.
He is a strong proponent of Israel, and I will say that the Republican conference is united that way. But what we need to do is to separate funding for Israel from this big package that Biden wants to do, where he wants to essentially hold hostage or hijack support for Israel and try to pass other things that are unrelated.
I don't believe there are any coincidences in a matter like this. I believe that Scripture, the Bible, is very clear that God is the one that raises up those in authority. He raised up each of you, all of us. And I believe that God has ordained and allowed each one of us to be brought here for this specific moment in this time.
And the first thing that the House did now that they were back to work with a new speaker, they brought a bill to the floor supporting Israel and condemning Hamas.
All right, that was Mike Johnson, the new House Speaker. MD, what do you think so far? Your initial thoughts with Mike Johnson?
All right, real quick, correct me if I'm wrong. CBN is Christian Broadcasting Network, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's all that you need to know. Again, Mike Johnson was a person that went relatively under the radar in terms of a lot of the policies that he tried to push. And now that he's out as basically third in line for the president of the United States, he's getting exposed for what he truly is, which is a Christian identity extremist for all intents and purposes. And the amount of backlash that he's going to get internally for the lack of any I guess you would say research on the Republican side is going to show its head come what, in a couple of weeks when they got to balance the budget again.
Right.
In my humble opinion, this changes nothing in regards to a government shutdown. In my humble opinion, the reason why, and like I said, I could be wrong.
Okay.
But the reason why is because we're still going to deal with the Israeli issue versus the Ukrainian issue, and the Republican consensus as of now is that they don't want nothing to do with Ukraine. The fact that they voted this person in shows you that the Republican Party is still in shambles because they got so tired of the fickleness and the rupture within the Republican Party that they voted somebody in that they know nothing about. I seen an interview where the person said that she had to Google who Mike Johnson was. Nobody knew this person. So he fell under the radar, and he was chosen based on a consensus that nobody really knew what his policy was. But now we know.
Right.
He's had several different bills of legislation that have been detrimental to separation of church and state. I'll just leave it at that until we get in deep into it.
Right. And I don't know if Ricardo's listening or available. I did put the link in the chat. Ricardo, hopefully he'll be on the panel later on. Yeah, Jim Jordan, under the radar for sure. He's an extreme right Republican, and it's going to be hard to negotiate, to your point, MD, with certain bills and things that are coming up. It's going to be kind of difficult. So it may be tougher, but I was just hoping, in my view, I'm just hoping, okay, so we just got the person in the seat, and maybe this will just start to at least get to the point where we can do something. I hope that it's not a complete failure.
Yeah, I get what your point, but take this in consideration, though, Van Camp. We had a whole debacle with Kevin McCarthy based on the fact that the Republicans felt like McCarthy did something behind their backs in terms of the whole Ukrainian situation.
Right.
You're going to have that same aspect come the deadline. The same thing is going to pop up. So now you have a person that's even more extreme than McCarthy ever was.
Right.
So are you now going to be 100% in line with not supporting Ukraine? I doubt that, because you have moderate support funding for Ukraine.
Right.
So
right.
so again, so we're going to deal with the same situation. Are you going to say, well, screw it, we're going to stand in solidarity and not vote for anything Ukraine, shut the government down? You really don't have a choice, because if you turn around and compromise with the other aisle, that defeats the purpose of getting Kevin McCarthy out of to begin with.
Right.
So it shows
good
the
point.
fickleness. Yeah, it shows the fickleness and the outright distortion of the Republican Party.
So this can also hurt the Republican Party, the Republican ticket next year, 2024. So maybe with that being, I'm just saying, maybe with that in mind, they'll probably have to, do something. They have to do something. If they do nothing, all eyes on them at this particular moment in time. So this would definitely hurt in 2024 if there's a lack of any. They can't do like what they did in the Obama years, where the do nothing Republicans, where they just vote against and don't do anything. They have to do something at this point.
Right. And again, it's going to be interesting come deadline, because all the things that happened pre McCarthy ousting is going to pop up again. It's going to be interesting to see what the hard line stance is going to be for the Republican Party. If they turn around and do the same thing, it shows you the incompetence of the Republican Party. If they stand on the belief led by this right-wing extremist Mike Johnson, then I'm telling you the government is going to shut down. So really, it's damned if you do, damned if you don't.
So MD, who did you have, like someone in particular that you would have liked to have seen possibly become the House Speaker on the Republican side?
Tom Emmer was my if I had a vote, I would vote Tom Emmer, based on the fact that at least I know Tom Emmer is moderate enough to compromise with the Democrats, but ironically, that's the reason why he dropped out.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. They would have had a lot of pressure on him. A lot of pressure would have been on him. Yeah,
I would have had more hope. I would have had more hope with the government not shutting down with Tom Emmer as Speaker. Let's just put it that way. But it would have been at a cost of more rupture between the Republican Party.
Right. So do you feel like there'll be like a cost to be paid, like for Matt Gaetz and others, that, the few people that are creating this scenario right now? Do you think they're going to have a reckoning to be paid?
I mean, unfortunately not. The reason being is again, like I've been saying, and we discussed it last week. The MAGA populace has a certain ideology which they're trying to push. All of these legislators in the House and in the Senate, all they're doing is stuff and pamper, so to speak, in terms of what they feel is best for their constituents from a MAGA perspective. The MAGA perspective is Mike Johnson is a great pick for Speaker of the House, not knowing that what you guys are doing is detrimental for the overall success of government. If that
Right.
make any sense.
Oh, perfect sense.
But because they're playing a role, and that's what I call it at the end of the day, it's playing a role. They're playing a role of being MAGA, when in actuality, their views and their lobbyist standpoint is not actually MAGA.
Right.
So with them playing the role, they're essentially tearing furthermore the Republican Party apart. So yeah, it's gonna be it's gonna play huge dividends on they career aspect, but how the like as far as voting and as far as maintaining their legislative position, I think they're gonna keep it.
Wow.
I'll just be honest.
Yeah.
Matt Gaetz, his district, like where in Florida is his district?
I don't follow Matt Gaetz that much. I'm not sure. I'd have to look that up.
Okay.
Yeah, but he I mean, there's a lot of people that represent Florida that are crazy right now, and he's one of them. I mean, he's getting a lot of heat. I don't know how long he could hold this up. As far as, I mean, like you said, MAGA is supporting it, and at the district that he's at, I'm sure he's not going to pay a price because gerrymandered districts don't really hold anybody accountable. It's just, so that's. I mean, we did talk about that last week with Marjorie Taylor Greene. So, I mean, it's frustrating because things need to happen. But the thing I'm hoping is that with this particular, I guess you call a war, or this issue with Israel and the Ukraine being, so seared in people's brains right now, and it's super focused. I mean, I know voters have a short attention span, but I'm hoping that this particular issue will force their hand to do something for a change. It's bad that you got to hope that people do their basic job, not even anything spectacular. Just do your most basic job. But yeah, it's going to be a major problem. So, and this MAGA, like I pointed out many times on this show, Donald Trump has been losing all over the place, and a lot of that has to do with MAGA. They every time they feel like it's going to be some kind of red wave, it don't really happen. And even when the one time he won, he lost the popular vote by a lot. So this hasn't really worked out. So 2024 is going to be a very interesting time. He keeps calling him Sleepy Joe. Well, he's going to lose to a guy that's sleeping on him. So that doesn't say much for him. So I don't know, man.
That's sad. Hey,
yeah,
take this into consideration. Now this shows you the outright idiocy of like this conservative viewpoint. Now, Mike Johnson is, like I said, he's a Christian identity extremist. That's what he is.
Right.
But he has the background of a constitutional attorney. So you telling me that this dude is a constitutional lawyer and essentially is pushing for a Christian nationalist society within the United States? Like, how does that work? How oxymoronic is that?
There's a lot of contradictions there. Oh my God.
It's weird. It's weird.
Yes.
But like I said, the only reason that he got the vote was because he was under the radar and Republicans got desperate.
And
he won the lottery, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. What does this say about Trump, though? Because Trump's pick was Jim Jordan, right?
Yeah, it was Jim Jordan. And to be honest, I would pick Jim Jordan over Mike Johnson any day.
Oh my God.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But hey, it is what it is. Like I said, again, it just shows you the dysfunction within the Republican Party. Like that's just what it is. And it's not gonna stop. It's not gonna stop until MAGA is destroyed. Once Trump is out of the picture, all of this will be rectified. But 2024, we'll wait and see.
Yeah. Oh, and I saw Ricardo in the chat there. Hey, Ricardo, I'm going to drop the link on again. Like to get your viewpoint on this as well. Give me just one moment there, MD.
Yeah, no problem.
Hey, MD, so we're looking it up here. Matt Gaetz represents the panhandle of Florida, Pensacola
Oh, okay.
area. Yeah, Pensacola. 73%
sense.
white. Yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense.
73% white. Yeah. Yeah.
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
Wow. All right. Well, this is obviously not going to stop, and it's going to be interesting, like MD said. What's going to happen, and hopefully it's not too crazy, because we need to start getting some kind of something got to get done. We can't just keep having one catastrophe after the next. It's just crazy.
Right.
So at this point, we're going to go into political news, and in political news, we want to take a look at our good old friend Mike Pence.
In the Republican presidential race, former Vice President Mike Pence dropped out over the weekend, saying he has, quote, no regrets, though one imagines disappointments. Pence struggled in the crowded GOP field, and former President Donald Trump, well, he still leads the race while he fights his courtroom battle.
A little bit surprising. And months ago, I was in Iowa and spoke with the former vice president on the day he announced he was upbeat and hopeful his conservative message could break through. But months later, it became evident that many Republican voters just would not give him a hearing, especially those Trump supporters who can't forgive Pence for his role in certifying the 2020 election.
After much prayer and deliberation, I have decided to suspend my campaign for president effective today.
Former Vice President Mike Pence suspended his campaign this past weekend in a speech in Las Vegas.
This is not my time.
With a nod to how hard it has been to gain traction in a primary race so dominated by his one-time ally, former President Donald Trump.
We always knew this would be an uphill battle, but I have no regrets. The only thing that would have been harder than coming up short would have been if we'd never tried at all.
Pence's decision might be the beginning of a shakeup of the Republican presidential contest, potentially prompting others to assess their own campaigns and whether they should follow suit and consider rallying around a Trump alternative.
Look, I think that in the end, it just means this race is narrowing, which everyone said that it would.
But Trump rivals like former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie are in no rush to leave or to push others out.
It's not my place to tell people when to get out.
Sources close to Pence say he is unlikely to quickly make an endorsement.
Everybody that leaves seems to be endorsing me.
But Trump called on Pence to endorse him, despite having pressured Pence relentlessly to overturn the 2020 election results.
He should endorse me. I chose him, made him vice president, but people in politics can be very disloyal.
Bob, we've got a new Des Moines Register poll showing that former President Trump is still leading the pack there in Iowa and by a wide margin. However, and this is interesting, Nikki Haley now tied with Governor Ron DeSantis with 16% each. The poll also shows that 65% of Republican caucus goers there in Iowa say Trump can beat Biden despite the legal challenges he is facing, 91 felony counts. So what do these numbers tell you about the race?
Clearly, this is now a race for second place in Iowa, with Haley continuing to gain support, not only there, but from major donors across the country who see her as a viable Trump alternative who could take on President Biden on foreign policy. But now with Pence out, can she land his endorsement? And can she weather Governor DeSantis' mounting attacks?
At this point, still a long way to go. And in politics, Tony, a few months can be a lifetime.
All right, Bob, you're right about that. Thank you very much.
All right, there we go. Mike Pence dropping out. And one thing I want to say real quick, Empty, I can't stand when these politicians, when they're quitting or dropping out of the race, and they say, well, I'm going to suspend my campaign, like as if it's going to come back later on. You gave up. Just say you damn gave up, my guy. so, so what are your thoughts on this, MD?
I mean, I guess I can say I saw it coming. I commend Mike Pence for getting in the race to begin with, because it was a lot of scrutiny on him in regard to like the MAGA populace. So I commend him for having the balls to even run. I got to give him that. Now he's a Christian conservative as well, no doubt about it. But at least I can give him credit with standing on the Constitution more often than not. So I'll give him that credit. Again, it was already foreseen that this was going to happen. I also commend him for not immediately endorsing another candidate.
Right.
I believe if he would have did that, it would have been him basically with his tail between his legs. You know what I mean? So I don't see, and I would be surprised if he endorses Trump when everything is said and done. If he does it, then I take everything I said back. You know what I mean?
Right.
But again, I mean, there was no way I could see him gaining any type of ground in terms of voter poll based on what people conceive him to be. In the MAGA reality.
Were you surprised by how early he's the first one dropping out? That's
Well, he's the first notable one.
Right. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
So to me, it's shocking that it was this quick.
Again, I mean, the writing was pretty much on the wall. Like the polling pretty much put him out months ago. You know what I mean? Now I don't take polling for law by any stretch of the imagination, but at the end of the day, a candidacy for president is a lot of money. At some point in time, you got to know when to hold them, got to know when to fold them, and got to know when to walk away. And Pence walked away. You know what I mean? And like I said, I commend him for his battle, no question. He was able to give pushback to an ideology that is MAGA, and he stood his ground. So for that much, at least he was able to do that in the spotlight. So again, I commend him for that.
All right, so we're welcoming the Ricardo to the panel. What's up, Ricardo? Did you catch any of this Pence discussion here?
I did. I came in the nick of time of catching in the Pence conversation piece there for the political week. Yeah, just like you and the rest of us, Venkat and MD. Shout out to both of y'all. Sorry about my punctuality tonight. I was assuming we were gonna start later, so I kind of missed the memo there, but we're all good. We're here. I'm a little bit shocked that Pence pulled out this early in the game. I thought he had a little bit more longevity to him, but I guess funding or the funds from the potential donors are not coming in as quick financially for him as he would have liked it to, and therefore didn't want to waste the supporters' time. I, like MD, is also grateful that he didn't select or pass on a baton yet to who he would like to be selected, because I think it would skew everybody. So the polls, like they stated, shows Nikki Haley and DeSantis tied. So that's very interesting. I never realized that they both share the 16% mark. But I thought that would have been between her and Christie. So somewhere along the lines, Christie is kind of deflating. He needs to either pick up the pace somewhere or try to take more shots, because right now DeSantis isn't really doing much. So for him to be number 2 tied with Haley, that's kind of surprising for me as well. Like I said in the chat, I guess the fly won, because when he pitched during that debate with the current vice president, I thought that was like the most epic. What's the word I'm looking for? Because that's my favorite tagline. What's the word I'm looking for here? I guess the most epic debating moment in TV history, because that fly just came out of nowhere. So I'm like, bet you any money one day that fly gonna come back and be a haunt omen to Pence, and here we are, a week later, where he dropped out of the race. Like MD also referred, I don't know. It seems to me, I don't know the MAGA crowd or if it's like a specific group of people that are pushing. I still, for the life of me, cannot fathom why Trump is still in the lead going into the polls, which I don't really believe anymore, because since he came in, I stopped believing polls. Like it was because of Trump, where polls just where they were like, yeah, Hillary's gonna win, and then as soon as we saw the polls the following, like the day of the election, we're like, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense, because the polls were saying one thing and then he ended up winning, so it doesn't make no sense at all. So for him to be leading is kind of shocking, because he yet to grace himself on the stage with the rest of the selected candidates. How is that possible? Are we missing the mark somewhere? Is the MAGA crowd that powerful? We're just not paying attention? Is it that they want a little heightened, shock value factor here? Are we that bored? I mean, there's something it's got to give here, because he's still in the lead, and they're talking about him without referring to him or giving him reference. But we're kind of doing the in the window thing. But he's still in the lead, and he's yet to stand on the panel. How is that possible? We know why, but still, it's kind of shocking. We need I need him to either grace the stage at this point, face the firing squad or the mob squad and just let it be, or I just need the Republican or the Conservative Party to be like, listen, we're just going to pick you at this point, because right now it's not like the numbers are showing them being deflated either, and that's kind of really odd to me. But what do I know? Maybe the MAGA crowd is still as powerful as we think they are, but going into 2024, will they still hold that longevity for him in terms of we're anticipating a whole bunch of things here that's gonna steamroll into 2024. Voters are fickle. They're gonna forget something along the way. Either if we go on the government shutdown, they're gonna forget something, or if we get a stimulus check, they might forget about something. I don't know, but they're gonna forget about something, because we're that fickle as a society. Everything is like celebrity dumb. Somebody says something this week, and then next week we forget about something. So again, Pence dropping out. I wish you well, sir. You still were spineless, because as the most uber conservative of the Trump administration, I thought you would have said a little bit more, which you kind of did for J6, but you kind of didn't. So you weren't gonna win anyways. Hey, goodbye. See you later. That's it.
Well said. Well said, and very true. And Mike Pence, he just was spineless the whole time. And I lost a lot of respect for him very early when I noticed that. You wish that he would have stood up for something. I mean, say what you want about Joe Biden, but Joe Biden actually interjected plenty of times in the Obama administration, steered him, Barack Obama, to doing certain things that kind of helped his legislation. So Pence can't say the same. What has he done with Trump? What has he influenced Trump to do? You look at George Bush, and he was with Darth Vader.
Right.
Darth Vader imposed his will on George Bush. like no vice president ever did. So, Mike Pence is one of the weakest. I mean, we're talking about Kamala Harris, but Mike Pence don't get a pass.
And to
What did he do?
And to think he could have almost been president is even more scary. But then again, it didn't materialize that way. But to think for that 1 second that he could have, and yet you still didn't. I mean, you said nothing, you did nothing. You kind of like, and in a way, he was probably terrified for his life because this crowd was kind of crazy. I mean, we saw what he did. We still can't even mentally think about how we even had that occurred. How it feels like how many years ago, right? Like it felt like probably 5-6 years ago when J6
I
happened.
know.
But
yep.
On that day, we were expecting somebody to at least have attempted to say something, or at least look like the most sane out of the crowd. And everybody looked like they were terrified of either going against the them. I'm gonna say my code name from Code Agent 45. We were expecting Pence for obvious reason to say stuff about what transpired, and he didn't say anything. And I've lost respect for him before then, but that moment I was expecting him to like at least interject. He didn't. And again, maybe he was terrified for his life because they did call for his head to be severed when he wanted the Capitol. But come on, Pence, you didn't stand a chance. This crowd will not forgive you. The other side would not, wouldn't give you a chance either. So I didn't see you winning the race. It was good to see you win the race, but you didn't stand a chance of winning. So it was kind of redundant and pointless to begin with. But hey, what do we know?
Yeah, and what's very jarring about that, you go back to January 6th, when you see the footage of Mike Pence being escorted out in a fury with the Secret Service people and his family having to quickly get out, and I think there was one of the cops stared the mob in the wrong direction.
Right.
That was like a game changer right there, because if they would have went the other way, it could have ended up a different way for them. So it's just like all this real world threat to your family, and then you don't even say nothing, you don't even make a stand, you don't make any sort of adult decision that, hey, this is enough games, lives are being lost, and this is serious. We need to start doing the right thing. He never had that kind of moment. Never. All right. So, that's Mike Pence, but now we're going to get into something a little bit more serious, more sad, I would say. Last week we had the tragedy with the shootings. So we want to cover that in the State of the Union. Tonight is Halloween. Hope everyone is safe for Halloween. Hopefully there's no incidents. We know how things can get crazy. But let's go into our State of the Union and take a look at this horrible situation, and we'll have our comments on the matter.
Lewiston, Maine is a ghost town today. The entire place shut down as cops hunt for the bowling alley shooter. Schools and businesses are closed. Residents have been advised to shelter in place and lock their doors. The first 911 call came in at 6:56 p.m. from the local bowling alley, where a youth night was being held.
Fairtime Recreation for an active shooter incident, multiple people down. We have an active shooter. We have multiple injuries.
Cops say the suspected gunman, Robert Card, entered the bowling alley with an assault rifle, raised and ready to fire. One report claims he was looking for his ex-girlfriend. This is what it looks like inside the bowling alley. There's a bar, a video arcade, and 22 lanes for bowling. Megan Hutchinson was there with her 10-year-old daughter Zoe, a competitor in the Youth Bowling League. Zoe's leg was grazed by a bullet.
I never thought I'd grow up and get a bullet in my leg. Why? Why do people do this?
Have PD on scene, but the suspect is still at large.
Cops say the suspect left 7 dead at the bowling alley, then drove 4 miles to Schmenge's Bar and Grill, once again reportedly looking for his ex-girlfriend. He opened fire at 7:08 p.m.
2 active shooter locations, all available units.
There was a cornhole tournament underway. Bar manager Joseph Walker was among the 8 shot dead at Schmenge's. His father, Leroy, is a local councilman.
My son is dead, and I know he's dead. I know it as well as I know. I'm standing here telling you because he's not here, and he's not at any other hospital.
Wanted, this man, who police have identified as Robert Card. He's a person of interest in the shooting deaths of at least 16 people in Lewiston, Maine last night. Dozens more were injured in the massacre.
Card is considered armed and dangerous. If people see him, they should not approach Card or make contact with him in any way.
Card is enlisted in the U.S. Army Reserve and has an active military ID, which grants him access to any military base.
It's exclusive video of the suspect, Robert Card, doing what he liked best, playing cornhole. It was recorded at a recent cornhole tournament.
There you go, Robbie.
The video was taken at the bar where 8 victims were killed last night. Card is believed to have targeted the cornhole players. On Facebook, a regular at the bar writes, "I cannot believe we all played cornhole with that guy all last winter. I am so glad none of us were at the tournament tonight." Card was obsessed with cornhole. Here he is at a fundraiser last year holding a beer. Here's what we know about the 40-year-old suspect. Card served as an Army reservist for 20 years. He was just fired from his last job at a recycling center. Last summer, Card was hospitalized for 2 weeks at a mental facility after hearing voices and threatening to shoot up an Army Reserve base in Maine. Card is 5 feet 11 inches. He's 230 pounds and studied engineering at the University of Maine. Like lots of people in the state of Maine, Card was also an avid boater and fisherman.
Fox News has now confirmed that the suspect in the Maine mass shooting, Robert Card, has been found.
Well, in other news, the main suspect, Robert Card, he's been found dead. Police say he was killed by a self-inflicted gunshot wound at a river in the nearby town of Lisbon.
Almost exactly 48 hours after a mass shooting broke a community and forced it into lockdown, a trail took police last night to a recycling centre and brought their nightmare to an end. A body found, a suspect dead.
I stand here tonight to simply report that the Maine State Police have located the body of Robert Card in Lisbon. He is dead. I've called President Biden to inform him about this news.
The news ended a day of intense police activity. They had called it a fast-moving, dynamic manhunt, and it certainly looked that way.
Joshua A. Seal, 36 years of age. Brian M. McFarland, 41 years of age.
At an earlier news conference, each of the victims was remembered.
Joseph Lawrence Walker, 57.
Their stories each carry a particular tragedy.
Tricia C. Asselin, 53.
Joshua Seal was among a group of deaf friends brought together for a sports tournament at the bar. His wife Elizabeth, with their children by her side, somehow managed the strength to reflect.
I think those people who already know my husband, they were lucky. He was amazing. For those who didn't know him, they lost out. He was such a fierce advocate for the deaf community and for kids.
Okay, there it is. The crazy mass shooting in Maine. We'll start with MD. What are your thoughts about what transpired? And then we can also get into the gun debate.
I knew that was coming. But yeah, a tragic situation, man. Again, you know, we're dealing with a crazy person that unfortunately had access to weapons. You know, I mean, I'm gonna stand on what I always say. If we take out the stigmatism of being in certain situations, in certain places, at certain times, with law-abiding citizens, coherent citizens, people that are adept to carrying firearms, maintaining firearms,
Go wash
and
your hands.
being responsible. Again, I think that this situation and many other situations that have happened and situations that will happen will be minimalized based on the fact that we have more responsible gun owners. That's all I'm gonna say with it now, and I know we're gonna get into it. I'm gonna let Ricardo go.
All right, Ricardo.
All right, so it's gonna be I feel it's gonna be one of them nights where this conversation is gonna be really intense, because of the gun issue is always gonna be a polarizing topic of discussion. um I knew that somehow some way we're gonna get into the mental illness card being pulled repeatedly over and over again. It's like a never end. I've become so accustomed to it that immediately I know when it's going to be drawn and effectively how it's going to be used to skew the narrative, which it's becoming so annoying to me now. Not to say that there isn't a mental illness problem, because he clearly was deranged. My issue with all of this is, and thank God for some kind of legislation being put in place where he was stopped from purchasing the damn silencer. I don't know what goes into these deranged individuals' minds. Why is it that this country seems to have a particular problem when it comes to, oh, I'm gonna just go take multiple or many people's lives because A, I lost my job, B, because of coochie, 3, because financially I can't get anywhere, 4. It's either a list of things, but kill yourself. I'm sorry, it's a terrible thing to say, and it shouldn't come out that way, but why take other people out when you have an issue? Go ahead and then take yourself out, because at this particular point it's like selfish. It to me, you went and took so many people's lives, what, 22 people's lives, because of what? You were angry with your girlfriend, or she did something to you, or my goodness, yes. It's sad, it's disappointing, but it's a never ending. We're getting into the same cynical cycle over and over again, whether it be mass shootings at school, whether it be um at, like MD mentioned, certain gatherings. Is anywhere safe in this country anymore where you could gather without somebody thinking of, oh, I'm just going to take up a gun and shoot multiple people? Pulse was a couple of years ago. God forbid there was the concert event. Then there was that shooter in Vegas, shooting from on top of that damn hotel. If I can't remember the name of it, it's a famous hotel too.
Because there's so many of them that
It's so much.
they get blurred.
The Buffalo,
I think it was Mandalay Bay. I could be
right?
wrong, but I think it was Mandalay.
It was
That's
Mandalay,
the sad thing. We
and
don't. It
it's like,
doesn't stand out like Columbine used to stand out. Now
and,
it's everything is mushed.
and now it's gotten so bad to the point where we can't even keep up with, like, the getting back to backtracking where these events were all in terms of a timeline. It's that frequent. What is it gonna take now? Because at this point, and I implore both sides, this is not just a Democratic issue. It's not just a Republican conservative issue / we're gonna fight liberal issue. It's a general United States issue. This country has a problem with mass shooting. And I don't know if it's because the general population here has now reached over the 400 million mark, where there's too much people owning guns, or it's like we're gun centric, where everything is guns. I, it's one of them things. I am conservative, but I'm also liberal, so I'm both. I'm in the middle. I'm for anybody who wants to get guns. With that being said, I also would like the NRA to not be so powerful in the sense where they're interjecting, and then you can't pass legislation to then say we have a gun registry where we could then have names on the registry, where we could then say, okay, there's some people that shouldn't have a magazine or a certain gun if you're in the military. The military is keeping track of certain guns. You know what I mean? Like there's certain things that should be in place where certain people, if you know if we're going to pull the mental illness card, they shouldn't be given access to certain ammunition, certain guns, certain magazines, because hey, why would you need that in the first place? Yes, everybody has a right to a gun if that's the case where we're allowed to bear arms because it's in the Constitution, but there should be certain, again, and I know MD is going to come at me for this, the government at some point probably should be in place where and then again, you can't even trust the government either. So it's kind of like a double conundrum where on one hand, you kind of need them to put legislation to kind of stop or, prohibit certain deranged people from doing certain things. But then how are you going to do that when the NRA is so powerful and they're so entwined in politics where they're literally getting funding and funding particular parties on certain sides, because I'm sure Democratic and conservative sides have their their little entanglement there with NRA. But it's becoming too free now, where I think we had the shooting in Buffalo where they shut up the supermarket. Now what is next? I'm terrified of what's next. We had a mass shooting in churches. I sat at work and really ran down a whole bunch of scenarios in my head and it was like the only other place that they haven't done this at is, and I'm not gonna say it because I don't want to wish it upon anybody, but he's like, that's funny that both of us thought about the same place. I'm like, there is nowhere you could go to now where you could feel completely safe, because deranged individuals are coming up with all these psychotic things in their head to then inflicting harm on regular innocent people. Again, just take yourself out. Why go after innocent people just because you have a grievance or seek help, or try to, there's something we could do at this point where we can at least assist people, because he was in the army. So why was it that the army or the veterans side didn't assist this man before he went on the rampage? And then the sad part is he went ahead and suicide anyway. So we don't have answers. We have more questions as to why he went on this rampage, and no one seems to know why. Why? Is he an incel? Is he somebody that was staying at home the most of the time? Where was the family members? Did they not signs here? Like, there's certain things I need questions need to be answered, and no one seems to know 1 week after the fact. And it's like, now again, because we're so fickle as a society, we completely forgot about that mass shooting. Now there's something else on our minds, we completely forgot about it. That was last week's issue. This is the problem I have. We're into 2024, so now that I need people to start remembering, because we're so fickle as a society. Celebritydom has become more important than common man issues that now needs to be navigated in such a way where we now need to tackle them. And there's so much distractions, there's so much nonsense that no one seems to have answers. We have more questions leading into why. There's so much whys, but no, how could we have prevented, if that makes sense? So here we go. We're going to lead into the in aspect of, is guns really necessary? Is it becoming a nuisance? So if somebody can answer that for me, then I'll be contented.
Well, I'm always saying we're going from one tragedy to the next, and we are kind of like that movie Crash, where everybody's so numb to each other that to feel anything, you just got to crash into people. And it feels like nobody really cares about anything until it happens to them. And by then it's too late. And then we just move on to the next tragedy and the next tragedy and the next tragedy. I don't think you can outgun to death. There's got to be some sensible laws in place, and the NRA and the Republican Party are notorious for not doing that. they have their way. You know, in that video you saw, there was a local provisions that they had steps to take to ensure that he didn't get the silencer. But what if this was more of a area that didn't have that? You know, where would they be at that point? How many more would have died? We've been fighting for common sense laws to get on the books. There are some things here and there, but it's nowhere near where it needs to be. There's just way too many deaths at the hands of guns. I don't understand why we're so lax on something that can intentionally kill people. And with cars, we have to get all these licenses and regulations, and we're all up to the neck with all these things we have to follow with a car and with everything else. But with a gun, it's like a toy, you know. That don't fly for me, man. If you're a responsible gun owner, you will never have any objection to any responsible legislation that will be put in place.
Agreed.
So that's why I like it.
But
what do you consider? My bad. I'm sorry. What do you consider responsible legislation, Bankhead? I must know this. In your opinion.
I don't know. I mean, it seems like every time something is put out there, it's shut down. You know, right now we don't have that much. I think like the wait period is what we have, and so on and so forth. I would just like it to go more. I'm not going to get into any particulars, but I'm just saying, I just wish there was more. Because clearly, okay, for instance, there's a video that I'm going to play. And I don't know why the Republican Party needs this, but I want to get your guys' view on why do we need to go in this direction in this country. All right, check this out.
It's one of the most divisive topics in America, and this morning gun rights advocates are celebrating the rollback of an Obama-era regulation that would have added about 75,000 names to the background check database for gun sales. And with Republicans now in firm control of Congress, it could be just the beginning. In just the first month of the Trump presidency, the GOP turning their focus to the politically charged issue of gun control.
The joint resolution is passed.
The Republican Senate voting 57-43 to roll back an Obama-era gun regulation designed to make it harder for certain people with mental disorders from buying a firearm. The rule was written after the Sandy Hook massacre in Newtown, Connecticut, where 20 first graders were among those murdered by a mentally disturbed man. The regulation took years to write and was just finalized in December. It would have added people who get Social Security disability benefits for mental impairment and who are deemed unfit to handle their own financial affairs to the National Background Check Database, about 75,000 names. Republicans say that would have violated their Second Amendment rights.
Repealing this regulation will merely ensure that disabled citizens' Second Amendment rights are, in fact, protected.
But the Brady campaign to prevent gun violence calls it heartless. Democratic Senator Chris Murphy's constituents include Newtown parents.
This is so deeply morally offensive to people in Connecticut, frankly, anybody that's lived through these tragedies.
Today, it's on the way to the White House for President Trump's signature.
We are going to protect our Second Amendment, which is under siege.
Making good on a campaign promise. And with Republicans in charge, ushering in a new era for gun rights advocates in Washington after President Obama spent years trying to convince Congress to pass stricter gun laws.
Every time I think about those kids, it gets me mad.
Even after tearful, emotional pleas, Congress didn't act. Now Murphy fears even more setbacks.
I think this is just the first step. And now the only thing that Congress has done on guns since Sandy Hook is to make it easier for very mentally ill people to get guns.
It wasn't just the National Rifle Association and gun rights groups who opposed this. The American Civil Liberties Union also argued that it would infringe on the rights of mentally disabled people and contribute to stereotypes that mentally ill people are violent. Matt, Hallie.
Casey Hunt in Washington. Casey, thanks very much.
Hello, Today fans. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking that button down there and click on any of the videos over here.
I'm playing. All right, so so we're talking about mental health. We're talking about guns. Somebody explain to me Why do we need mentally challenged people to have guns in this country?
Okay, so we got conflicting reports here. So we understand that you have to fill out a federal tax form in order to purchase a firearm. Not just a tax form to purchase taxable extremities of a firearm, i.e., a silencer, bump stock, whatever. You have when you go into a firearm store, pawn shop, whatever. You have to fill out a federal form. If you don't already have a concealed weapons license, which you got to fill out a form for that. You got to fill out a federal form that has very specific things on the federal form. One of those is just like on the federal tax form. Have you ever been in a mental institution? Now, the conflicting report is that Obama put into legislation something that would expand that. As an American citizen, if I'm deemed, and again, take it for what it's worth. I'm not saying it's right or if it's wrong. I'm indifferent to it because I'm 2A. I go by what 2A means. Based on that report, if I'm deemed competent enough to carry a weapon, so be it. Now, who am I going to put the onus on? Am I going to put the onus on the gun manufacturers or the gun lobbyists? Or am I going to put the onus on the mental health facility to deem me capable of doing things as an American citizen? That's my question to you.
Okay, so I don't think that the gun manufacturers, or gun companies should have to have a say in any of that. I think that if a person is established as being mentally challenged, I don't think they need to be carrying a gun. That's all I'm saying. I'm just saying that
I agree with you. I'm not saying I disagree.
The thing is that it went from a conversation in the backyard to actual legislation that was implemented. And in a time where there's all kinds of issues to pass legislation to fix, and they pass that. And it just blows my mind that, like, we talk about responsible gun owners. Again, there's nothing that anyone is going to ask a gun owner to do. Like for instance, I don't understand the tripping on gun owners having to do a few extra steps to acquire weapons and ammunition versus Republicans' attack on voters. Regular people going to vote and the extra steps they have already, this isn't even like thought of. This isn't like an idea. It's already implemented in many states. Georgia, one of them. Well, you can't even hand people a bottle of water if they're in line to vote. All the made up election fraud.
Coercion. He started laughing.
The two things are not the same. We're talking having a gun versus having a vote. And one of them is much harder to do than the other. And it's mind-boggling which one it is. That's what I'm saying. That logic is at odds right now. And you can't have a real discussion about these things and not acknowledge these issues.
Okay, cool. All right, so it's Halloween night, right? So I'm gonna play my best Trevor impersonation.
Oh Lord.
So when we talk about mass shootings or whatnot, from the common perspective, we understand mass shootings are the shootings where it has an astounding number of killings, disproportionate to the number of people involved, right? Just like this situation in Maine.
Mm-hmm.
Technically, a mass shooting would account to. I think the number is 3 or more. I think that's
Right.
I
Yeah.
think that's the
Yeah.
number.
Yeah.
What?
It's either 3 or 4.
Right. So where is the mental health aspect on a situation? I don't know. Let's say like this past weekend in Chicago,
Okay.
where multiple people were killed at a party. Where's the mental health aspect in that? That was my best Trevor impersonation.
I mean, I don't have all the details on what happened in Chicago, but I will be safe to think that it's what always seems to be happening in Chicago. Those are issues that definitely got to get addressed as well. But again, Republican Party, they're not only on the wrong side with the gun part of it, but also education, funds being allocated to mental health, education, and all the things that will help to address some of these quills in society. They're cutting funding for, and they're not focused on that. So it's kind of disingenuous when Republicans, they try to dismiss mental health, but they're not helping with the mental health aspect as well. Part of the police is stretched thin. They always get called for every type
Glad you
of
said that.
situation. Yeah,
I'm glad
they
you
always
said
get
that.
called for every little thing, and that's kind of unfair to the police. But it's also led to unfortunate situations where they're not equipped to deal with particular issues, and then it ends up being a really bad day. So we may need to look into having specialized people that understand and deal with mental health issues and episodes, so that we could better address the issues. But
I agree. I definitely agree with that. But that doesn't take away from the fact. And you just gave your position away by saying that the police are spread thin. That's even more
they are
reason.
spread thin. Yeah.
That's even more reason to have competent citizens be able to be in a position where they can carry their firearms and not face scrutiny based on the location that they're in. I'm telling you what the problem is. The problem in and of itself is that you talk about all these guns that are out here, millions and millions upon guns, yet nobody's carrying them when they need to carry them. The reason they're carrying them, not carrying them when they need to carry them, is because there is a stigma. I'm telling you this, especially in the black community. There is a stigma.
Oh yeah.
Where it is not appropriate to have a firearm in a certain situation or a certain location. That needs to end. If that ends, then you take away what they call the soft target. Soft target meaning a vulnerable group of people not able to defend themselves. Most all mass shootings happen in soft target locations. You would agree with that, right?
I do agree with that. They go for kids, elderly. They go for the weakest people. They're not going for places where they may be at a disadvantage. That's typically what happens.
And in my opinion, that takes away from playing the mental health. I'm not saying that mental health is not involved in it. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is the person that may be having the mental health episode may still be cognitive enough to understand what they're doing from a soft target position.
So MD, you're out with your kids or whatnot. You want to put your day and the likelihood of you getting back home on the likelihood that a person that may or may not be mentally equipped to handle himself, not have a gun, and that could just go in all kinds of directions. First of all, you could be trying to shoot somebody and it shoots the person that they ain't even intended to shoot. They could just go crazy, ballistic, whatever the case may be. Why we just have all this Wild West stuff going on? I think that the mass shootings that are in this country are fundamentally crippling people's safety to the point where it's going to affect, it's already affecting business. I mean, look at when the Batman movie got shot up. How many people after in 2012, when that Batman movie got shot up in the theater, wasn't looking behind their back when if they went back to the theaters? Because it's a dark setting in a room full of people you don't know. And, again, it's like you're going out to spend some money, have a good time with people, and then an episode just break out. And it can happen at any moment, at any time, and you don't know. And a lot of these cowards, they do what they do, then they kill themselves. Because they already planned to do that in the get-go. So they got nothing to lose. They're just looking to inflict pain. The problem is that you may or may not be in that place, and then you're going to be in a situation where all you were trying to do was just, be a law-abiding citizen, just enjoying yourself. And randomly in this country, it could just happen. Now, in other countries, there are shootings that happen, that have taken place, and they immediately did a legislation. And you don't hear these sort of things happening there. So fundamentally, it makes me think, okay, well, they did something happen, they did something about it, and now their numbers are way lower. I mean, we're doing numbers in a month's time that are exceeding a year. And it's just crazy. The conversation can't be people are just getting shot up all the time.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. No, okay. Let me ask you, because again, this is a poignant topic, right? As a business owner, hypothetically speaking, if I want to make sure that my business and the patronage within my business is safe, what can I do?
You're going to say higher security.
Well, I mean, that's one option.
Okay.
That's one. Another option would be, saying that weapons are not allowed in my establishment, or metal detector. For instance, you mentioned the Batman shooting.
Yeah.
That particular mall, I'm pretty sure, and especially being in Colorado, which is a liberal state. That particular mall could have had metal detectors, especially within the entrance of the movie theater.
Right.
So I get your point by saying vulnerability when it comes to a populace of people may be a factor, and I agree. But you also have to understand the risk involved and the premeditative measures that you take in order to minimize that risk. As private citizens in the country, we have the right to impose whatever rules we want within our establishment. If you take into consideration a situation such as a shooting, you take the preemptive measures in order to minimize that situation. So the aspect of taking away guns versus preemptive measures, that's the real argument. Nobody wants to talk about the preemptive measures and at the same time maintaining 2A status, which is constitutional. So what you are trying to implement, Venkat, is a socialist is a socialist ideology by saying the only way to keep the populace safe is to take away the rights of the populace.
No. I never said. I'm not really saying that though, MD. What I'm saying is allow the regulations that need to be to obtain the gun. So let's have a conversation on what are the parameters and steps that are needed to be taken so that you can be allowed to have a gun. That's one major step that pretty much weeds out the responsible owners from the people that are going to probably use it for nefarious means.
But I would argue that the steps are already there, though, Venkat. I would argue that the steps are already there.
No.
How are you going to dictate if somebody crazy or not? How you do that?
I think there's cognitive tests. There's doctors that could analyze people. You could there's
I need a psycho analyzation before I'm able to buy a gun. Is what you're saying? They need to hook me up the nose and.
I'm not saying that, but people that usually have issues, people will tend to be like, well, something is not right. You know, there's a known thing. And if you have kind of like that guy, he had a history. And when he put down that, you know, he had a mental situation, that's was the red flag that stopped him from being able to pursue. I don't think every
But he
state
already
has
had
those measures.
had guns though.
Exactly.
He already had every state. That's a federal form though, Van Cat.
Because from state to state things are different.
No, not when it comes to firearms. No.
Oh,
not when you buy a firearm, Van Cat. Trust, I have plenty of firearms. Let me give you the steps.
Okay.
When you buy a firearm, there's two ways that you can buy a firearm. If you go to your local county court and fill out a concealed carry weapons license, it goes through the national database. When you fill out that form, you got to do fingerprints and all of that, and then you get your concealed carry weapons license. Then you don't have to fill out any other forms after that, because all I have to do is show my card, and you say, okay, cool, I can buy whatever gun I want. Or if you don't have a concealed carry license, you fill out the form. I forget what it's called. But it's a national form either way. It goes the same way. The national database, not local, national. It goes through the national database.
What about the gun show loophole though?
Well,
a lot of people can get around.
I bought a gun in a gun show.
Right, and it's much easier to obtain a firearm at a gun show.
But guess what though, Van Cat? If I sell you a firearm and that person is not deemed competent to hold the firearm, who's responsible? This is the part that they don't tell you. So again, I understand that is an argument. I ain't gonna say it's not. The gun show loophole is an argument. But the fact of the matter is, still, yet again, we're talking about an instance where you can't dictate, so to speak, the cognitive aptitude or the psychiatric evaluation of a person based off of that. That's
I'm not saying randomly we're just going up to regular people. I'm just talking about there's established people that it's known, it's in the system that they are mentally challenged. And the Republicans fought to make sure that they were able to get guns as well. And what I'm saying is, if it's guns. Trump already passed that law. It's already a done deal. What I'm saying is, I'm not saying like, oh, this guy's crazy or whatever, you know, hearsay. I'm saying you're a documented nut job, and you're able to acquire a gun. That's problematic to me. And the socialist thing, you guys just love to say. I guess it just flies off the tongue. It's so nice. But what I'm saying, I'm not even all the way against guns. I'm just against the no accountability, and I'm against people acquiring it very easily. Because if there's a step and a process that you diligently have to do, you know, some people will just be like, you know, it's just too much. I don't care. I don't want to do it now. But if you are really responsible and blah blah blah, it wouldn't be a problem. You just do what you got to do, and it's good. And then there's other things, not just that initial, acquiring the gun, but there's other things as well.
Wait a minute. I need clarification. So you just said that if extra steps are taken in order to qualify a person to own a firearm, that's going to deter certain people from going through those steps to get the firearm. That's what you just said, right?
Well, it's not. I'm talking about, like, there's people that I understand there are people that just get guns that illegally and blah blah blah. I understand all that, but there are some people that will acquire a gun and they want to get a gun to do some harm to others. But if the steps are like very detailed, and I'm not saying anything outrageous. I'm saying no different than what they would do to require the voters, and they need this documentation, they need that, and all those extra steps. You're saying that right now on the books there's like a form or two. I'm saying there should be more degrees of separation between that.
Okay. Again, like I said,
I'm not anti-gun though. I'm not anti-gun, but I just think that the way things are, I don't believe in their so-called system as far as like a registration or whatever. They don't really have that. They don't really have a universal database, because that's something the NRA is against. They don't want that type of stuff. They don't want to be kept records of what you have, where you have it, how many you have. They don't want none of that crap. To the life of me, I don't understand how Hicks on a farm. I'm just categorizing people. Hicks on a farm are gonna hold back the Marines because somehow their guns are so much powerful. I just don't get that. Yeah, if you're gonna go against the government, good luck with that one. But I'm not anti-guns.
That's there. That ain't. Yeah, I mean the whole well-regulated militia. I mean that's old school.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is, it was put into place. It says a well-regulated militia is there. That gives the right to the people to hold and bear arms, just in case we need a militia. We understand that we don't live in that type of time right now. But the fact of the matter is, at any point in time, you should have the right to hold and bear arms based on whatever the situation may be. That was the actual interpretation of the Second Amendment. Whatever situation it may be, a mass shooting. Therefore, I'm telling you once again, I end with this. We have to take away the stigma. The stigma is the issue. I'm telling you, that's what it is. Many of those people that got killed in Maine, I can guarantee you have firearms. The issue is when we get to certain businesses where it's looked as a social taboo not to have a particular firearm in that place of business, that gives a label as a soft target, and these people that do these mass shootings take that into account every time. We have to get rid of that stigma. That way, once he came into that bowling alley, once he went into that bar, he would have got turned into Swiss cheese. Period. And I'll end with that.
That's Wild Wild West stuff, man. I mean, there's some
Wild
of the stuff.
Wild West. Do you not want to protect? Do you not want to protect
all
yourself?
I see is grandma pulling out the skirt. I mean, but some of the points you're making, I'm not totally against, MD. I really am not. I just want it to be more solid.
You say Wild West. How many people would have been saved that night? Had everybody been armed?
Because well, MD, in my mind, I know that in the moment when you pull out a gun and you're under pressure and you have that nervousness going on, I just don't trust a regular ass dumbass that have a gun to start shooting. They'll probably start shooting off, hitting a baby in the head or whatever. You just don't know that. I'm just saying.
Do you trust yourself, man, Cat?
What?
Do you trust yourself?
Yeah, but you don't know how you're gonna.
Hold on, wait a minute. Whoa. You trust yourself, but you don't trust nobody else.
What? No, what? Hell yeah, I don't trust nobody else.
Well, that's all the more reason for you to have a firearm, Van Cat.
Oh man, I mean, I remember a friend of mine. He was telling me how one night he was out and these guys were attacking someone, and he stopped his car on the street And he pulled his gun out and said, "Hey, stop." His hand was shaking, but he stood steady. He stood steady, and he was able to scare them away. He let off a little warning shot and scared them away. And that happened in a good instance. But he trains and goes to the shooting range and whatnot. He doesn't play around with that. But how many people own guns that are like actually trained and actually do the right thing by their guns? I just don't. We got people out here walking that don't bathe. All right? They ain't bathing. So how am I going to trust these jackasses to be competent with the gun? Come on, man. This is America. We got to call it for what it is.
Okay. I'm gonna leave it at that, man. I'm gonna leave it at that.
All right, man. All right. So we're going to go into the lame duck session. So for the first time in lame duck history, we have a repeat duck. This mother clucker is about to repeat.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
You're trying your best, but it never feels like enough.
I started having second thoughts almost the moment I sat down on the plane.
Lights off! Off! Turn them off. They're too bright. Turn them off. Turn them off. Let's go. Ready?
We go back a long way. She was 12, I was 30, but anyway.
So I changed my return flight and flew back on the first available flight I could take.
I'm sick and tired of smart guys. I'm sick and tired of ordinary people being fleeced. I'm tired of being quiet. I'm sick and tired. I'm just sick and tired. We have this notion that somehow if you're poor, you cannot do it. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids. With great power comes great responsibility.
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Clause 2A1 of Rule 9, I seek recognition to give notice of my intent to raise a question of the privileges of the House. The form of the resolution is as follows. A resolution censuring Representative Rashida Tlaib for anti-Semitic activity, sympathizing with terrorist organizations, and leading an insurrection at the United States Capitol complex. Whereas Rashida Tlaib exhibited her hatred for America by reposting a message on October 12, 2023, blaming America for allowing the deaths of Palestinian babies at the hands of Israel. Whereas Rashida Tlaib led an insurrection at the United States Capitol complex on October 18, 2023, which put members of Congress, their staffs, and Capitol visitors in danger by shutting down elevators, stairwells, and points of egress while obstructing official business in both the House of Representatives and the Senate, including a Senate Foreign Affairs Committee hearing. Whereas the insurrection led by Rashida Tlaib was organized by Jewish Voice for Peace, which the Anti-Defamation League calls a radical anti-Israel activist group. Whereas members of the Southern Poverty Law Center, a far-left nonprofit organization, were present at the insurrection at the Capitol on October 18, 2023. Whereas several insurrectionists at the Capitol belong to a group messaging chat called Global Intifada, which is the Arabic word for rebellion or uprising, and refers to a series of protests and violent riots carried out by Palestinians in Israel during the last century. Whereas by leading an anti-American and anti-Semitic insurrection on October 18, 2023, Rashida Tlaib followed Hezbollah's orders to carry out a day of unprecedented anger following an explosion at a Gazan hospital, lying about Israel's responsibility for the attack, which United States intelligence agencies said was not perpetrated by Israel. And whereas members of Congress who denounce the United States while praising terrorist organizations are unfit to hold office, now therefore be it resolved that Representative Rashida Tlaib be censured Representative Rashida Tlaib forthwith present herself in the well of the House of Representatives for the pronouncement of censure, and Representative Rashida Tlaib be censured with the public reading of this resolution by the Speaker.
Talk about Marjorie Taylor Greene. In a world of lies, conspiracies, and divisive rhetoric, it is sometimes a tough call on which ones to give oxygen to and which ones to ignore. But this morning, a sitting U.S. Congresswoman suggests that if she had been in charge of the January 6th attack on the Capitol, the crowds would have been armed and they would have, quote, won the insurrection. Speaking at an event hosted by the New York Young Republican Club, Marjorie Taylor Greene said this. Watch.
I come to Washington. I swear in on January 3rd. I get accused of giving insurrection tours, which I thought was hilarious because I couldn't even find the bathroom in the Capitol. True story. Then January 6th happens, and next thing you know, I organized the whole thing along with Steve Bannon here. And I want to tell you something. If Steve Bannon and I had organized that, we would have won. Not to mention, it would have been armed. Yeah. See, that's the whole joke, isn't it? They say that whole thing was planned, and I'm like, are you kidding me? A bunch of conservatives, Second Amendment supporters went in the Capitol without guns, and they think that we organized that? I don't think so.
Well, those are interesting comments, to say the least, considering how she felt during the attack. Greene messaged White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, and I quote here, "Please tell the president to calm people. This isn't the way to solve anything. Publicly, of course, a different tune." Just a week and a half later, she pushed Meadows to stage a coup, getting the military involved so that Trump could stay in power. Quote, "In our private chat with only members, several are saying the only way to save our republic is for Trump to call for martial law." She spelled it incorrectly there. She justified that request by perpetuating the lie that led to the violence at the Capitol in the first place, writing, "They stole this election. We all know they will destroy our country next."
And Vermont Representative Becca Balint delivering an emotional speech on the House floor, calling for the censure of her Republican colleague Marjorie Taylor Greene for hateful comments against the Jewish community, the LGBTQ+ community, and for spreading misinformation about mass shootings and the 9/11 attacks.
On Facebook, a comment that Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene posted that claimed 9/11 was, quote, done by our own government, to which she responded, "That is all true." That same comment, liked and agreed to by Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, further claimed that the mass shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary, where 26 people, including 20 precious children, were murdered, was staged.
Representative Balint spoke for 10 minutes, sharing a timeline of comments, social media posts, and news reports from 2018 up until now that suggests discriminatory behavior from Marjorie Taylor Greene. This comes after the Republican representative formally introduced her own resolution to censure Michigan Representative Rashida Tlaib, a Palestinian American, accusing her of anti-Semitic activity and sympathizing with terrorist organizations. Balint says there is no place for anti-Semitic Islamophobia, anti-LGBTQ, racist rhetoric, and conspiracy theories in the House. And Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene did put out a response on social media yesterday saying, "Slow down and breathe a little, Becca."
Can anybody hear me? I don't know what happened.
No, we can hear you. You're good.
Okay.
All right, there we go. For the second week in a row, Marjorie Taylor Greene, our lame duck. What else can be said? Ricardo, what do you think about the hypocrisy of Marjorie Taylor Greene censuring a member of Congress and all the ridiculous, crazy things she's been saying?
Well, I just find it rich, really, really rich, that she is using the word insurrection so incorrectly placed in terms of how it's being articulated from her mouthpiece. Again, I just, like, really, I just cannot, MD, give her any credit at all. She is really, it's either she's dunce or she lacks the political competence of understanding what she's saying. She just speaks verbiage, and it's like vomit verbiage. It just comes out, and once it comes out, it just splatters all over the place, and it just makes a bigger mess than what it's supposed to. Like I told, or what I said to her in terms of giving her advice, stop speaking. If you have nothing good to say, like my grandmother would say, don't say anything at all, because you now become like, every time she talks, it's either she's doing this in a way to try to rile up her base, or she's doing it because she really lacks that common sense knowledge of what she's saying. You can't say that somebody is an insurrector, or insurrectionist on their country when they have the political right to speak, and the right for free speech is there. She is from Palestine, the representative that she is trying to censor here. And secondly, when it becoming a problem in this country, because I could have swore the Jewish League had an issue with her last week, so now all of a sudden she's touting for Jewish rights. Please sit down somewhere, because you sound so incompetent. Where was all the rage when all those kids that we're seeing on various political sites being blown apart, where you're seeing limbs all over the place? Did nobody seem to care at all about that? That's the issue that the representative is bringing upon the floor. Like, we can't be doing this, and this is what I said last week. You can't be saying one thing for one issue, and then everybody's acting like, oh, we're so conservative, we're pushing for Israel here. Yes, call it wrong when it's wrong. It doesn't matter who or what or when or how. If you see innocent kids being killed, where their limbs, their hands, their foot, their body parts are all over the place, it's still wrong. No one, as a parent, and I will say this because I am a parent, so I could say it. If I see an innocent child being killed, I'm going to be outraged by it. It doesn't matter who you are. It's something that tugs at your hearts, your heartstrings. When did it become an issue when somebody can't speak out and say, well, yes, what that terrorist organization did was wrong, but you can't paint everybody with the same paintbrush here. It's just like you're literally saying every Palestinian is a terrorist group, or it's a part of that terrorist group. That is not the case. And I said this last week as well. If that was the case, then we could all say every white person in this country is like Timothy McVeigh when he blew up the Oklahoma City bombing. There's other various situations where we could paint the brush across the spectrum the same way. That is not the case here. If the representative stated that, hey, listen, what we're doing here is wrong. Why is it that my fellow countrymen representative are not speaking out and saying, hey, what is happening in Palestine and the West Bank and Gaza Strip? It's like, what? So we can't speak about it now. So we're slowly start censoring certain things. That is very dangerous, a dangerous road that I don't think we need to be going on here. Again, like I stated last week, I'm going to say it again this week. If you see something is wrong, speak out about it. And that's all that matters. It doesn't matter whether or not they're Israelis or they're Palestinians or they're this or they're that. It's wrong. If you see kids being blown apart, if you see innocent people being killed, speak up, because that's the only way we're going to get the message across. Secondly, if you see something's wrong, you have the political right to vote the individuals out. What is Marjorie Taylor Greene speaking about? Like, why is nobody other than that particular representative that's in her own party not censoring her more? She is becoming very annoying. And the dangerous part about it is that she has a base that's really thinking it's like everything she's saying is correct. None of what she's saying is correct. It's like it's verbiage of nonsense at this point. Like, when are we gonna just take her out completely? I thought she was censored for the entire year. I'm not quite sure why she's still speaking, because she was censored, I think, 3 times the last time I counted, or was it 2, since last year, and she's still going on and on and on about nonsense and rhetorical foolishness that makes no sense. So she's speaking of insurrectionists, then she's speaking about she would have armed stuff. Like, the minute you started speaking against people that have been in trauma, you lost me, girl. Like, woman, you just be quiet. That's all I gotta say. Somebody should just tell her, ma'am, if you just stay out of the lane of like speaking about stuff that is not pertaining to you, and just do your job. We don't need you to be bringing up stuff that you don't have no clue about. She's becoming more like Sarah Palin, and even at this point, I could say Sarah Palin is smarter than her, and that says a lot. But Lord,
Yeah. Very true. Very true, Ricardo. Very true. MD, what's your thoughts on the situation?
Hey, Ricardo, are you denying the 018 insurrection on the Capitol? Are you doing that, sir?
The 018 insurrection on the Capitol.
Yeah. Is that what you're doing?
What the 018 insurrection of the Capitol was.
What those people did? Let me stop. No, but seriously,
because that's what we're using insurrection as an incorrect term here. Like, I'm confused. Is it that the conservative bloc are they not calling out J6 as an insurrection, or more so they're just smoothing over what happened as it's not being an insurrection? We need to bring up what the word insurrection means in terms of translation in terms of dictionary wise, because I think it's being used way too loose here, and it's becoming dangerous rhetoric to me. Like, insurrection means you're going against your country, and that's what those people on J6 did. What the representative that Marjorie Taylor Greene is going after, that's not insurrection, that's free speech. So maybe she doesn't know the difference between what an insurrection and free speech is. I'm confused.
well, they went against their country for not standing in solidarity with the people of Israel. That's what they did. So the insurrectionists at the end of the day, and they need to be tried before a court. So now let me stop. No, but seriously though. So again, y'all look at Marjorie Taylor Greene as and you know, for the most part I do too, but I look at it more of a political piece, right? In the eyes of MAGA, she's a rock star.
She is.
They're just keeping it a buck.
Mm-hmm.
Hell, I'm gonna be honest with you. I wouldn't be surprised if we find now. Let's hypothetical. You know, I like hypotheticals. If Trump get into office, I wouldn't be surprised if she become, in some form of fashion, part of his cabinet. Now, that's looking at an outstretch, but either way, Marjorie Taylor Greene has a position that she's playing, and we talked about this last week.
Yes,
she's playing a role.
Yes, she is. She reminds me of Nikki Haley. They're playing a role.
Oh, well, you put Nikki Haley into that?
Yeah, no, because she was playing her role too.
Oh, that's MD's pick, man. You can't talk about Nikki.
Playing her role. At one point, I thought she was good until she started saying stuff, and I'm like, wait a minute, you're completely reversing how I thought you should have been. Not to discredit her, but she did do or say a couple of stuff that was so out there that I'm like, oh wow, like she's one of those. So I'm like, I can't. She's like, it's polarizing for me when it comes to Nikki Haley. On one hand, I give her some credits. On the other hand, I'm like, wait, she did say a couple of things that was like very far outreaching that I'm like, I have to second guess myself. So yeah, they are playing a role, and Nikki Haley is in that position as well, where I say she's playing a role. When she was in when Trump was in power, she was playing up to the role. You got to admit that. Whether or not we didn't see it or see it, she was playing a role. So the same thing applies, or is applicable to Marjorie Taylor Greene here. She is playing a role because, again, like I said last week, she has every person in her cabinet on speed dial, including the former president of the United States. So if that ain't playing a role, then I don't know what is.
I get your point. All yeah, no doubt.
So
what I
Ricardo,
was saying, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm just going to put this up on the screen to piggyback what Ricardo is saying here. Oxford Dictionary definition of insurrection: a violent uprising against an authority or government. So, yeah, she's utilizing the word, but that's about it.
Context. That's
Yeah,
my
yeah. They was in there violently singing songs in the Capitol building.
what songs that they were singing about. Word. Man, I just wish like it's when are we gonna stop with the divisiveness? Like it's like at some point somebody's got to be the principal here because it's a class. That's basically what it is. A class of unruly legislative personals that are like all over the place with multiple or different self-interests, but at the same length and breath, someone should be able to listen, settle it down, quiet it down, because y'all are unruly and it's creating divisiveness in the country that we don't need. Did we not learn from the midterms? Most Americans at this particular point is over it. We don't care for the nonsense. What we want is for you to lower the damn gas price, lower the inflation that's being inflicted on the fellow citizens at this point, and we don't want a damn war, because the last thing we need is to be involved in or meddling in other issues that we don't need to be in. But then here we are. So they're being unruly for what reason? What? That because you can't get your way, or I'm just gonna say whatever I feel like saying, or I'm not gonna choose or be with this person, or I'm gonna do this, and then but we need your vote, so I'm gonna be friends with you today, but tomorrow's like I can't stand that person. So like it's so phony and fake. Like let's just quit the divisiveness and get to work here. Like no, we haven't been doing, or I shouldn't say we, because it's not the general citizens that we're talking about here, because Lord knows we don't get free health care, but they do. As for why they get free health care, I don't know, but get to work, people. Like this is just ridiculous, and Marjorie Taylor Greene just annoys me, so I'm gonna stop giving her the attention that she's seeking. Like maybe if we ignore it enough, she will just dissipate, but that ain't gonna happen. This woman says something every other week that's like, man, come on, like, are you for real? And trolling. If I'm not looking at a certain way she's doing, I think she's trolling. Is what it's looking at. Like this, like MD said, I don't think she's. It's not to say she's not cognitively smart politically. I think she says things to get like a riling out. So I think she's trolling. If she's trolling, then kudos to her. I think it's smart, but it's like smart in her way of thinking, but it's so politically dangerous. Like, have we not learned from certain things? Like, let's move progressively here. We're stunting time, wasting time on nonsense. Let's just get to work. Like a minority. At least we got a Speaker of the House, but really, this is what Marjorie Taylor Greene is doing this week again, man. Let's do something else.
But here's the thing, though.
Oh, go ahead,
I was gonna say real quick. I always say conservatism is dead, right?
Yeah.
This conflict in Israel, well, in Gaza, was the best thing to happen to the conservatives in a long time, because it fuels their rhetoric on what they want to push socially. You know what I'm saying?
Very true. Very true. They always need a boogeyman. That's true. Very true. They always
Right.
need a other.
And they didn't get it. They didn't get it out of Ukraine. That's why they throw Ukraine in the trash. Remember when Russia invaded Ukraine, that was the most bipartisan thing happening in Congress. Was Ukraine. Wasn't nobody saying nothing wrong about Ukraine.
Right.
When the agenda, I always talk about the conservative language being barbarism versus civilization. They can't push that narrative with Russia anymore because Russia is making moves from a capitalist aspect. So you can't push the ideology of barbarism on Russia, because hell, with all intents and purpose, Russia may end up leapfrogging the United States in terms of financial infrastructure. But that's a whole different topic. You can push the ideal of barbarism on this situation in Israel and Gaza. So they threw Ukraine in the trash can. Now all of a sudden, no Republican wants to finance Ukraine no more, because they got a new baby, and that new baby is Israel. This was the best thing that happened to conservatives in a long time, and they're gonna ride the wave because they know as of right now, kind of, sorta, it's a bipartisan initiative. Now you got some renegades, like you said, like Rashida Tlaib and AOC and Oman. You got some renegades, but for the most part, this is a bipartisan initiative. Just look at the dumb stuff that Biden is doing right now with the emergency funding. But we'll talk about that on that's another topic. That's all I wanted to say.
Okay. All right, I'd like to give a shout out to the chat. Got others in the chat. Mike, what's up, Mike? Shout out to Maria G as always. Nice to see Maria G again tonight. Always shout out to Tequila. Awesome. Mr. Straight Talk himself, Trevor, all in the chat. And peace to everyone else in the chat. We have one more video, and of course, it's the nightcap video. So after the nightcap video, then we'll have our final words, and we will be back momentarily. Okay, so it's Halloween. So the nightcap video tonight that we're going to look at, it's a little short video courtesy of legendary wrestler Roddy Piper. Rest in peace. And he's going to give you some tips on Halloween. All right. So let's go ahead and give our final thoughts on the show tonight, and happy Halloween to everyone tuning in. We'll start with MD.
Yeah, man. Hey, wise words from Hot Rod, man. Again, especially nowadays, you got to watch out, man, with your children. I remember last year here in Atlanta, we actually had a fentanyl death with a person that gave out some candy, and yeah, man, be safe. I always when my kids used to do trick or treating and stuff, I always say for every 2 to 3 kids, it need to be one adult there. That's how we used to do it. So make sure that the kids on routes that are safe. I know some of us live in the hood, but the hood tend to take care of one another, so to speak. Watch out for again the calls, because some people are crazy. And hey, have a happy Halloween, y'all.
Ricardo.
Yeah, I don't celebrate Halloween, but that's not to say that I don't enjoy the candy. So out there, enjoy your sticky ickies.
Doggone conservative.
Yeah, be safe. Parents, please vet your children's stash of candy that you see. Don't trust everything that you see. Even the most innocent people are doing the most vilest things these days. And as a parent, I always say it's better to be safe than to be sorry. So, just do your due diligence. Again, like I stated last week, I'm gonna say it again. Please let's not get into the tit for tat nonsense of not knowing how to do our own political research. Don't believe everything you see in the media. As MD touched on earlier, there is a narrative being pushed. You as a citizen need to know how to navigate and think clearly by yourself and not be influenced by the media. They're there to partially help you, not to fully influence what you think or how you think. It's up to you. The onus is on you to do your homework, to think for yourself and seek out the truth, like Mr. Straight Talk will state at the end of his closing shows. So again, I implore everyone, do your due diligence. Yes, it's always good to watch the news every now and then and keep up to date with current affairs, but please let's not get into this nonsense of being swayed by these people who are at the helm of our media outlets. There is a agenda being pushed, When is it not being pushed? It's one of them things that you have to know, but it's in your constitution. There's a right for them to be there, just like you have the right to free speech. Utilize your constitutional rights, but not overdo them. And I'll leave it at that.
All right. So we had a great show tonight. I'd like to thank everyone involved, of course, the most dangerous panel, MD, Ricardo. Appreciate you guys every week coming in with a stellar performance on the panel. Again, I'd like to thank everyone in the chat. Shout out to Mike. Mike, big shout out to Mike. Tequila, Straight Talk, Trevor, King Beard. Maria G, of course. Thank everyone for tuning in today. We'll see you guys next week. Like I said, the timing will be it's kind of up and down. It just depends on my scheduling here, but it'll generally be between 6:30, 8 o'clock, somewhere between there. I'll try to give advance notice as best I can. So thank everyone for tuning in. Next week we'll have another banger show. For everyone involved, I'd like to say thank you. Peace out to everyone in the Straight Talk Society, and we'll see you all next week. Peace.
All right, peace.
Peace.
She just said a terrible thing. You know what she said? Shout it out, because I don't want to. Okay, you're not allowed to say, and I never expect to hear that from you again. She said, I never expect to hear that from you again. She said he's. That's terrible. Terrible.